At the Red University building of Taras Shevchenko University in Kyiv, Ukraine, hundreds of people gathered to listen to a discussion panel composed of 3 former U.S. government officials and moderated by a BBC host. The panel dove into one of Ukraine's most pressing modern-day issues: security. The moderator, Stephen Sacker, started off the discussion with his observations on the Ukrainian mood today.
And I have to say, I've been in Ukraine many times, but on this occasion, thanks to the snow, I've actually only been here for a few hours. But I've already had conversations with diplomats, with students from the university, and a few others, all of whom, I have to say, remarkably bleak about where Ukraine is today.
However, his view of the bleakness facing Ukraine wasn't shared by many of the panel members. Ash Carter, a former U.S. Secretary of Defense under President Barack Obama, said that his view is not quite as hopeless.
This future here is not bleak, but the situation is serious, and it's important that Ukraine continue to develop, now speaking for defense, its defensive capabilities. I think the United States and the Western countries need to be committed to helping them.
General Wesley Clark, a former NATO Supreme Allied Commander, spoke at length about the threat that Russia presents to the West. He added that in his view, corruption was not as pressing a priority as defeating Russia.
I would, as an outsider, I'd be very disappointed to see another Maidan. I'd be very disappointed to see some third color revolution in the middle of this. We're asking Ukraine,
why?
Because we're asking Ukraine in the middle of a war to live up to the highest civic standards. Listen, there's corruption in every country in the world.
But that view isn't quite shared by Ukrainians. In a recent poll conducted by the International Republican Institute, 46% of respondents said that corruption was the most important issue facing the country, while 68% also claimed that inflation was the biggest issue for them personally. However, the point was defended by former U.S. General Jack Keane, who pointed out successful examples of the United States working with corrupt countries.
Corruption is an issue that needs to be tackled along with all the other issues. I don't think it's necessarily a first step. It complements everything else that's taken place. That is one of the why I use the Afghanistan and Iraq examples in terms of our determination to bring stability and security to those countries, despite the fact there were issues of corruption there. And we made some progress on that.
But in both Afghanistan and Iraq, polls have consistently shown that corruption is seen to be a bigger issue than security. Experts, including Catherine Dixon, program director at Transparency International, have pointed the finger at corruption in both countries as the cause of their failures. In Ukraine, where corruption is in the headlines day by day, the country's national security may in fact rest in its battle against corruption. Romeo Kabir, Anton Kunitsa, UATV.